about things that he observed at the scene.
He has not testified to what his certification was. He's not provided me or this court his actual certification in that area. My entire career representing defendants in Colleton County, Jason Chapman, I knew he served as a volunteer when he was young, but I've never had the opportunity to even inquire of him of his experience of observing fire materials.
Well, let me make sure I understand. He's not being offered as an expert.
Correct.
He's giving his opinion on what he sees from the fire. And that's the definition of an expert, just going about it in a soft kick way. If he's going to give his opinion, he should at least provide this court with his fire certification. And she has not said anything. I assume she's trying to elicit cause and origin information from him.
No,
I think he said she was about to ask him about what, if he saw something, what it would typically show.
No. I was going to ask him about his specific observations from this specific crime scene that he went into.
But not any sort of opinion as to what may have caused it or anything like that?
No, not cause or origin.
For instance, I saw burned stuff over here, but no burned stuff over here.
Yeah, what the scene showed.
Simply a fact witness.
Correct.
And
Okay.
he was on the witness list.
Correct. He was on the witness list.
Okay.
But nothing regarding any statements or observations. I think it was Kelly Padgett. No. Yes, Kelly Padgett said that Jason came to the scene carrying a black briefcase, or I believe it was her. One of the officers said that.
Okay.
I think that was actually your client that said that.
Maybe.
Okay, but this witness, again, will not be, not even offered as an expert.
Correct.
Will not be asked questions about his opinion, and sir, you understand you wouldn't give your opinion.
Yes, sir.
Simply observations. Now, you did say something about what one might typically see, and that sounds like maybe that might stray into the area of an opinion.
No, just that he's worked arson cases before.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not asking him for origin or cause or anything like that. We're just talking about what he noticed at the scene.
Your Honor.
Okay, but not a conclusion drawn from what he
No
noticed.
conclusions.
Okay,
I think what she has elicited from him so far violates Rule 702 in as much as he's already laid the foundation of all of his arson experience or investigation regarding fire. 702 is if scientific, technical, or specialized knowledge will assist the trier of fact to understand. That's what she's offering him as. Otherwise, she would not have gotten into all of the fire experience.
Well, she hasn't offered him as an expert. And of course, we'll have a charge in a little while about experts and that sort of thing. I mean, that rule pertains to experts. He's not offered as an expert.
Right, and it's fairly typical to ask law enforcement about any specialized training and credentials that they've received throughout their career.
Yeah, I
There's
think
no
that's
rule
normal.
against that.
I don't have a problem with that. I understand that that is the rule. However, if she's going to ask that he evaluated the evidence, I do believe that violates it.
My understanding is the state is not offering this witness as an expert, will not seek conclusions or opinions from this witness, only observations.
Correct.
Okay. And my understanding is you don't object to observations, you would object to conclusions or opinions.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so as long as we stay within the lane, I think.
And as long as he doesn't characterize the evidence, because that can suggest a conclusion in some circumstances. If he were to say, oh, this is a week old, or this just it appeared to be a fresh so-and-so,
that would fall into opinion or conclusion, I agree.
Okay.
So, okay, I think we're all on the same page then. Is that right?
Okay.
All right, can you bring them back, please? Thank you. We did a 3-week civil trial a month or so ago, and the jury had to be removed repeatedly for the same sort of thing. One of the jurors came up with the idea of a cone of silence that would descend over the jury, and so, but I don't know if that'll go anywhere. But thank y'all, and again, we've had to take up the matter outside of your presence, and it's handled, so please proceed.
Thank you. Captain Chapman, I think you had just finished talking about your various credentials, special training, and your experience in law enforcement. So let's move on. Were you employed by Colleton County Sheriff's Office January of 2019?
I was.
All right, and you're still employed by them today?
I am, ma'am.
And what is your current position?
Currently, I am over investigations, evidence, and special operations. That includes things, tactical operations, marine, water rescue, search and rescue, things of that nature.
Okay, and how many hats did you wear back in 2019?
All of those with the addition of being the intermediate between all the other divisions and the sheriff.
Okay. Did you help out in the investigation into the murder of Terry Lewis?
I did, ma'am.
Okay. Let me ask you this. There was a lot of talk about lack of body cams. Can you explain the Sheriff's Office policy at the time on body cams and why people did not have them?
Yes, ma'am. So at the time of the incident, we're talking January 17, 2019, the law that was passed in South Carolina mandating body cams, it was originally taken up in 2015. By the time it went through some modifications and all, it went into effect in 16. And it mandates that all uniformed officers who do regular or routine contact with the public be provided body cams. It also stated that the state would provide funding for the purchase of those body cameras. It was not until, I believe, mid to late 17 that we actually got our first funding and got the cameras that went to road patrol. That was what the funding was for. The funding that was initially provided was $3.4 million for the entire state that bought cameras and the hardware and the storage for all of the cameras. And it was divided out based on the number of officers you had in your agency that fit that criteria. So all of our uniformed patrol officers were issued cameras so that we could be in compliance with the new state law. Everyone else, we didn't have the money at the time to purchase cameras. It wasn't an option. It wasn't that individuals or divisions were given the option. It was that the money that was provided by the state went to purchasing those cameras for road patrol, and the officers that matched what the law required. So January 17, 2019, only uniformed road patrol officers were the ones that were equipped with body cameras and in-car video systems. Detectives do not have in-car video systems and did not have body cams. It wasn't an option. And they're not allowed to wear a off-brand recording device because the evidence collected by the body cam systems that we use cannot be tampered with. It can't be deleted. It can't be overwritten. It automatically uploads to a server at the sheriff's office. That server's protected. In no way, shape, or form can anyone in the office manipulate that video. If they were to use an aftermarket video system or their own personal telephone or something like that, they could then potentially alter that evidence. So it was not allowed to use a $30 camera from Walmart as a body cam.
Okay. Did you respond at some point to the Wade Hampton home?
I did, ma'am.
All right. And did you go into that house?
Yes, I did.
All right. Did you assist with the execution of the search warrant?
I did, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to show you some pictures just to refresh your memory, and then I'm going to put them up on the screen and just have you describe various things that you noticed in these items. This is these are states 21, 25, 30, and 33. If you can just flip through those, see if you recognize those as pictures from 273 Wade Hampton.
I do, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to start by publishing States 21. What room is this in the house?
When you come in from the garage or the carport area, this was the first room that you encounter. Be classified, I guess, as a den or a living room.
Okay, and what is, if you're looking at it as we are right now, what is to the right?
The steps that you see in the far right-hand corner, that goes up and into the actual body of the residence. I believe, I'm going to say maybe the next room is the kitchen, possibly.
Okay, what is to the right of that gray chair?
There's nothing right there right now. That should be where the stove area is.
Okay, that's where the stove is,
Yes, ma'am.
to the right of the gray chair.
That's correct.
Okay. And what did you notice about the living room?
When I got there, I assisted the other two detectives that were primarily collecting evidence, mostly for observation. And there were discolorations on the floor that had wet spots. Can't tell you what the wet spots were, but there were discolorations on the floor. There was also melted material that was strewn around the room. There was some of that melted material that was visible on some of the furniture. If I'm not mistaken, I believe like the TV stand had some strewn across it. Also the actual stove itself, or fireplace if you want to call it, had some of that on it, and some charred or burnt remnants. There were also some bloody, what appeared to be footprints, and some blood in some random places on some of the other furniture.
Okay. Did you notice any charring or singeing on the floors?
There was some.
And characterizing singeing. Has to be stricken.
Did you notice
Attorneys,
any
please disregard the question that you've got.
damage to the floors?
There was visible damage.
States 33. Can you describe what we're looking at here? What did you observe?
So this would be an image of the stove or fireplace that I was referencing earlier. When you shut the stove or fireplace, the left door has to shut first, the right door will shut over the top of it, kind of like the doors do on the back of a SUV in order for them to shut securely. There's some black substance that is all over both exterior doors there.
Did you look at the inside of these doors?
I did look in the inside, yes ma'am.
What did you observe about the inside of these doors?
Inside the fireplace or stove, there's none of that black material that appears to be thrown or spilled or splattered or whatever on the inside of that fireplace. There was one log that does not have appeared to have been used yet, like someone had it placed in there to light a fire, and one log behind that one that had been partially burned at some point in time. There were quite a few cigarette butts that had been.
Captain, if
Sure.
I can stop you right there, I'm sorry. I'm going to switch pictures for you. This is States 30. I think you were kind of going into this. Is this the fireplace?
Yes, ma'am. So,
Okay. And is this the log that you were talking about that looked kind of fresh?
yes, ma'am.
And the other burned log?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And then the cigarette butts you see around there, they were smoked, I guess is the best way to describe that to you. And discarded inside the fireplace. There was no heat inside the fireplace at the time of the processing, and nothing that looked wet or no, I think that was it. That's all I can comment on. Nothing that was, no visible moisture, no visible, nothing else visible inside of it.
Okay. All right, and then this is states 25, and I don't know if you had any additional observations with this one, or you may have covered them all.
And that's just a backed off picture of the same item that we were discussing earlier. There's, again, you have some type of black substance on the outsides of the doors. The black substance doesn't appear on the inside of the doors. No heat located or detected inside the stove or fireplace at the time of processing. That one piece of wood that was not burnt, one that was, and multiple smoked fire butts or cigarette butts inside.
Okay. At any point in time, was burned clothing belonging to Terry located during this investigation?
No, ma'am.
All right, and did you locate any portions of the couch that was found?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What did you locate?
On, I believe it was the 25th,
Okay,
following further investigation by the detectives that were actually working the case, I was advised of a particular vehicle route and a possible location for additional evidence that may have belonged to the couch that had been located the 18th, the day after the incident. So I went and searched the area of McLeod Road, and I actually located 2 additional cushions and 2 blankets. The cushions, again, showed what appeared to be evidence of a burn, and the blankets showed evidence of being burned.
okay,
There was also, I believe, a simple Bic lighter that was located along with those, and they were simply in the ditch line off the shoulder of the road off McLeod Road.
okay. Beg the court's indulgence. I'm going to show you what's been marked as 76 and 77. I don't believe defense is objecting to these photos.
No objection.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would move them into evidence at this time, 76 and 77.
States 76 and 77 without objection.
All right. You can take a look at these photos, Captain, and describe what's contained in them.
Yes, ma'am. And what you have marked as State's Exhibit 76 is a couch cushion on the side of the road. It's in a little bit of standing water that's in the ditch. We have it marked as item number 1. And in State's Exhibit 77, it's a matching couch cushion. And it also has what appears to be a blanket or some type of sheet or something that was along with it. They're both also partially submerged in the water.
Okay. Were those the cushions that you came across and collected?
They were, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to publish these, Your Honor. This is 76. in 77. Thank you, Captain. That's all I have. Please answer any questions Ms. Bright and I still have.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Captain Chapman, you started talking about your experience.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we put that in context? How long did you stay at the city of Walterboro?
A little over 16 years.
When did you leave?
I left on December 27th, 2012. I was unemployed for 3 days while I transitioned to Colleton County Sheriff's Office, and I started there January 1 of 2013.
As a matter of fact, when this county elected Andy Strickland as sheriff, you became his major. Isn't that right? You
Did I-
came over
no,
from
ma'am,
the...
that is not correct.
What was your position? Weren't you over CID?
I was, ma'am, but
And-
I was not a major.
You were his in charge over all investigations.
No, ma'am, that's not correct.
Were you and Andy close?
We were at the time, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he brought you because he knew he was a highway patrol officer and you did investigations. Isn't that right?
No, ma'am, he brought me because of my experience and what I was going to be doing at the time, but I
he-
was not placed over investigations.
Who was over investigations?
Who was over investigations?
Over you, because I thought you were in charge at the time.
I am now, ma'am. You asked when I came over, was I brought over by Andy
And you
to
were-
run investigations? I was not.
What was your
I
position?
was hired at the time as a lieutenant.
If you don't mind,
No, no,
I'm
no,
not going to
no, no,
interrupt
that's
you.
okay.
so-
I want to make sure.
So-
I was hired as a lieutenant over a 5-man team that did basically guns, gangs, and drugs.
Okay.
Is the easiest way for me to summarize it.
And you did that in that capacity, and then after Andy left, right before he left, y'all had some difficulties, is that correct? As it relates to some of the teams that you had, that you were over?
You're going to have to be more specific, ma'am, because I'm not sure if you're talking about that Andy and I having
No,
difficulties with the
not you
teams.
and Andy, some of the different teams with different counties and the metro units that y'all were involved in.
We weren't involved with a metro unit at the time. I was involved with a metro unit when I was at the city of Walterboro, but when I came to the sheriff's office, the only metro unit that we were involved with was not drug related. It was a water team
Okay.
with Charleston Metro.
Okay, got it. Now, when did you come over from the city?
January 1 of 2013.
So at the time that you came over, it was a couple of years later when Andy Strickland secured monies for body cams. And then you talked about the securing of money and
Right.
how we got a certain amount of money, but you didn't tell the jury about the federal funds that we received after a lot of the cop-involved killings, did you? Did we see?
I can't comment on something I don't know anything about, ma'am.
Okay,
I'm not in charge of anything to do with finance.
okay, got it. Were you in charge on the day that this accident occurred?
Was I in charge
Yes.
of?
Were you the highest ranking person that came to the scene over there at Wade Hampton?
The sheriff was the highest ranking.
He came to the scene?
He came to the initial scene at the hospital.
Oh, no, I'm asking Wade Hampton.
Okay.
When you arrived
I would have been the
on,
highest ranking officer, yes, ma'am.
and so what does that mean to a layperson? Means you're in charge of handling how the investigation goes, doesn't it?
Not necessarily, ma'am.
Well,
I'm
what
just
did it
there- I
mean
was
to
there
you all?
assist. What do you mean to you all?
On that particular day, what did it mean for you to be at the scene?
Okay, Ms. Matthews, I'm not trying to be smart. What I'm trying to get from you is a specific question. What does it mean for me to be on the scene?
What was
I'm
the-
an officer. There was a call. I responded to the call. I'm
What-
not sure what you're getting at.
What was the plan of, I wouldn't, and I
No,
apologize.
That's okay. I just want to make
What
sure I
was
answer
the-
exactly what you're asking.
Can I ask one thing? I think our court reporter's having a hard time because y'all are talking over each other just
I
a little
apologize,
bit.
Your Honor.
That's all right.
What was the plan, once you got there and you were in charge, Who was responsible for what duties?
Okay, so because I am in charge does not mean that I was ordering anybody to do anything. Captain Stallings was temporarily over investigations at that time. I was taking a position that supervised over Captain Stallings. So Captain Stallings was actually the one that was handling all of the investigation. I was there as an experienced investigator to lend assistance. It wasn't that I was there to instruct or do anything. That's why I did not collect any evidence. I didn't personally handle any evidence. I simply went along with the group that was processing inside the residence and offered my expertise as in what I thought something may be, what items probably should have been collected, what items were collected. But I didn't touch, manipulate, or do anything with the crime scene at all other than lend my expertise.
Did you walk through the house?
I did.
Did you see 3 dogs?
I actually called dispatch and requested animal control to come and get dogs that were in the residence.
Is your response yes or no? Did you see 3 dogs?
Ma'am, let me finish. If you're going to ask me a question, slow down. Let me answer the question. I called animal control. When they advised me there were dogs inside the house, they were opening the blinds and looking through the kitchen window. Did I see 1, 2, 3 dogs? I don't know how many there were, but I notified dispatch that I was advised that there were 3 canines in the house. Did I see all 3 of them? I don't recall if I saw 3, but there were dogs in the house. Animal control came and got them.
When you walked through the house where the dogs, did you see animal control take the dogs out of the house?
Animal control went in and got them with one of the other deputies. I don't know that I was there when they actually got the dogs out of the house.
Did you ever leave the house once you called animal control?
Not until we released the scene, I don't believe I'll leave the house.
Can you tell this jury how whether the dogs were big dogs or small dogs?
I can't, ma'am. I have no idea.
Did you see any dog feces in the house?
I do recall, and I can't say, ma'am, with certainty of exactly which room it was, but I believe there was a back bedroom possibly that had dog feces on the floor.
Did you see any urine in some of the photographs that y'all had?
As I spoke earlier, there was some fluid, something wet on the floor in the living room that we were in. I can't testify whether it's urine, water, or what it was.
Is it fair to say, since you're now saying that Angela Stallings, who was also investigations but dispatch from her testimony, is it fair to say that whatever she did in her capacity as an investigator, she would have, you as her superior, you would have reviewed?
Not necessarily.
You would not?
Not necessarily. No,
Okay.
ma'am.
I'm going to go out on a limb here
Yes, ma'am.
when I ask this question. Were you not trained over your multiple years of investigation that documentation is vital to any investigative report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you prepare a written report so that you could accurately describe what you saw on that day and what happened on that day for this jury 5 years later?
So I did not personally write a report because I did not manipulate, collect, or process any evidence. I accompanied the other detectives. It was very clearly documented by their photographs and by their supplements. Having not done anything other than make observations, I did not write a report.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you advised in any time in talking to any of the other officers, or either talking to your boss, Andy Strickland, who, by the way, was at the hospital for some of this investigation? Did he tell you that Leanne Kellum was his tenant?
No, ma'am.
You never knew that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. This happened on January 17th, 2019. And Craig Lewis was incarcerated at the Colleton Detention Center until February 19th, 2019. At any time during the time that he was incarcerated, did you or any of your officers, since you had already Mirandize him, did you go to get a statement from Craig Lewis to discuss what happened?
I never Mirandized anyone. I didn't conduct an interrogation or an interview on anyone. I believe you were referencing one of the other detectives. I personally never went and talked to Mr. Lewis, but I was informed that,
If you would not say
You-
what you
you
were.
asked me,
No,
so you-
I asked you,
ma'am, you asked the question.
Yeah.
Don't say what you were informed.
I simply asked, did you go to talk to Craig? I didn't ask what anyone told you. Did you go and talk to Craig during that month that he was at the jail?
I did not.
Did you instruct in your supervisory capacity any of the deputies, investigators, or people under you to go and get a statement from Craig?
I was not over the investigation simply because I am the commanding officer of the other captains. I did not instruct anyone to do anything in the investigation.
May I approach the witness? I'm going to show you what I previously marked as Defendant's Exhibit Number 7. Do you recognize that
Thank you.
photograph?
I believe this is one of the items that was along the shoulder of the road with the couch cushions.
Can you identify it the way you did in direct, what that was?
It was described as a blanket,
Okay, thank you.
or some type of throw blanket.
Your Honor,
sheet.
remove number 7 into evidence.
Any objection to defendant 7?
No, Your Honor.
All right, that'll be defense 7 without objection.
I'm going to give this machine a try. How do I do this? I see it on here. Thank you. Mr. Chapman,
Yes, ma'am.
on this photograph where I have pointed to in that blanket, is there any white cotton? Did you look at it and see whether or not there was white cotton coming out of that blanket?
I can't testify to what the material is, but in that image, it does appear to be some type of white cotton type material sticking out there.
Was this blanket collected by the Sheriff's Department?
I am pretty sure the blanket and the cushions were collected.
Was this blanket ever tested by SLED for any fire, incendiary material, or anything of that nature?
I did not submit anything personally to be tested, so I do not have any knowledge if it was submitted or not.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
There has also been I'm coming right back over. I think your attorney might have presented to you one of the photographs like this one, but that's a bigger view.
That would be the state's attorney, not Captain Chapman's
I'm
attorney.
sorry.
I have no objection.
Yes, ma'am. It appears just to be a larger image of the couch cushions on the side of the road on McLeod Road.
Out of the things there that we see, was any of those items that you brought as an exhibit, were any of those items,
Yes, ma'am.
SLED for evaluation of any kind?
Again, ma'am, I did not personally submit any items to SLED for processing. To my knowledge, I cannot answer that question because I do not know.
So we have it looks like several items on there that
Yep.
you don't believe was sent.
I didn't say I don't believe, I'm saying I have no knowledge of whether they were or were not.
Okay, that's fine. Can I move this into evidence? It is defendant's exhibit number 8.
If it helps, the state is fine stipulating that those items were not sent to SLED in all candor to the court and for the jury.
Okay, so first of all, defendant's 8 is entered without objection. Second of all, the state represents that those items were not tested. Is that correct?
Correct.
Other than the items that we've talked about, the sofa,
Yes, ma'am.
the cushions, the blankets, the items collected from the home, what else was collected that was large? Was there, let me rephrase that, Mr. Chapman. Did the state collect or seize a trailer, a black trailer, as a part of this case?
I don't remember the color, Miss Matthews, but I do know they brought in a trailer
Okay,
and secured it in impound.
okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as 56.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is that the trailer?
That does appear to be one of the photographs that was taken of the trailer.
And to your knowledge, was that trailer ever sent for testing?
In what regard, ma'am? I mean, what kind of testing?
I'm not sure. Why was it seized?
You would have to ask the officers that seized it. To my knowledge, was the trailer sent to SLED for processing? No, ma'am. Not that I'm aware.
Was it tested for, was it seized for any particular purpose of testing?
I can't attest as to why. To my knowledge, the only reason that the trailer was maintained in impound was because it was allegedly used in the crime. And I
And-
won't go any further than that, but
As we sit here today, it is your testimony that 5 years, that trailer has not been used for any testing, hasn't been sent to SLED, but yet you still have his trailer at the sheriff's department.
it is policy of the sheriff's office that any vehicle, which if you look at South Carolina law, a trailer is actually classified as a vehicle, that any vehicle used in the commission of a accused homicide, that vehicle must be maintained until the trial is complete. So do I know that this trailer is still in our impound? Absolutely, it sure is. I did an inventory the other day and it still appears in our impound lot. Because, as you see today, we're here in trial. So it's maintained like every other vehicle that was used in a reported homicide.
And that trailer was seized from Kansas City.
I do believe so, yes, ma'am.
And nothing was submitted for testing or testing by officers of the Colleton County Sheriff's Department locally on anything from Kansas City.
I can't attest to what was sent off from Kansas City, ma'am.
The fireplace you talked about, doesn't it appear to be surrounded by ash and cigarette butts?
I remember there being some white powder around the base of it. I don't remember there being any cigarette butts around the base of it.
Okay. The fire log,
Yes, ma'am.
when did you arrive at the scene?
I can look at this piece of paper here and tell you exactly, but it was some 15, 18, 20 minutes after the initial call was given out.
Well, let's go to that.
Okay.
15, 18 minutes after the initial call, that would have been around 2:30, and the search warrant wasn't received in this case until 5:30, right?
If you say so, ma'am. I'd have to look at those numbers to tell you. I don't know what time we were dispatched. I just know that after responding to the hospital, it was about 15, 18, or 20 minutes before I got to the scene from the hospital.
Isn't it correct that at least 5 or 6 hours had passed by the time you went into the house and say you felt a log?
You're asking me if it was 5 or 6 hours? Well, ma'am, if I got there at 3:30, somewhere in that range, and the search warrant was signed at 5:30, that would be 2 hours, not 5 to 6.
You investigated in some regards this matter? Did you see where Terry Lewis was at the hospital at 12:14?
When I look back at the report, I could see what time after they got additional information that they had come in earlier in the day.
Mr. Chapman, you don't know when Mr. Lewis got home to Wade Hampton Avenue earlier that day, do you?
Do I know when he arrived back home? I'm assuming you meant from the hospital.
No. I'm asking you, do you know any of his arrival time at the home prior to the fire?
I have no idea.
Okay. Court's indulgence, please. In your investigation in the past, have you had the opportunity or experience in measuring footprints?
I have.
Did you measure the footprints in this particular case?
I did not collect, process, or manipulate any evidence. So no, ma'am, I did not measure anything.
Prior to coming here, did you realize that Angela Stallings said, who you say was in charge of the investigation, that she didn't write a report either?
Prior to coming here, did I know that?
Yeah. When you were preparing for this trial, which y'all say my client committed murder on, did you look at the fact that someone under you did not even write a report, and you're telling us that she was in charge of the investigation?
She was in charge of the investigation.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No redirect. Thank you, Captain Chapman. I
Thank
would
you.
ask that he be allowed to be excused.
Ms. Brightman?
No objection.
No objection. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Honor.